Thank you for joining tonight. Welcome to our inaugural Arcview Showcase. So I appreciate all of you being available tonight, given the distraction that is our presidential election. I don't know about you and how many of you have been glued to the screen over the last 2 days, but I can honestly tell you the last 2 days has probably been the least productive of my professional career. But look, our goal here is really to bring you as an Arcview member or accredited investor current and compelling deal flow. That's why we're doing this. So how does that sound? So many of you are Arcview investor members and have access to the Arcview Access series of webinars that we've been doing steadily really since last year. And I hope you've enjoyed the compelling content that we've delivered you. But we really want to do more. We want to bring you interesting vetted companies for your investment consideration. Now, we already do this by opening up our Arcview Collective Funds monthly members meeting, which highlights 2 companies that are on their 3rd step of the fund's vetting process. For those of you who don't know, the Collective Fund is our member managed venture fund where our members make the decisions and share in the fund's economics. We're 55 members strong on a march to 100 and actively investing. So that's available, but still, we wanted to do more for you. That's why we're introducing the showcase. Now tonight, we're going to present 2 companies, each of which Arcview Ventures will aggregate interest for participation in an SPV to invest in those companies. This will be done under standard terms and conditions, but with a low minimum participation amount of only $10,000. So for those of you who are interested, we will arrange a follow-up group due diligence session with each company and get you access to their data rooms. Okay, the 2 companies tonight are first Toast. Toast has crafted a collection of full spectrum hemp CBD products from edibles to pre-rolls and tinctures formulated both for humans and pets. Toast means celebrating life in full spectrum, unique blends of cannabis and hemp. I like that, celebrating life in full spectrum. That's how I want to celebrate life. And Pantry. Pantry is a cannabis-infused edibles brand created and owned by award-winning chefs using premium ingredients, great tasting and beautifully packaged products. After each company presents tonight, our investor panel will bring their investor lens to the conversation. So joining Gene Sullivan and I in that discussion is Alain Banquier and Rafael De La Cruz. Each are seasoned investment professionals with related experience. Alain is a successful food tech investor and executive, advisor and board member. He was the CEO of the Manischewitz company until its sale. I don't know about you, but Manischewitz wine was certainly a staple at all my Passover Seders. Alain is well known to the Arcview community and a longtime cannabis investor. Rafael has served as a marketing executive for well-known brands, including Vitamin Water. Among many accomplishments, Rafael is also active with Arcview for many years, serving as a judge, mentor, and is an active investor and advisor to CPG companies and music professionals. So it's really exciting and we're really happy to be doing this with Toast and Pantry. But before we hear from them, we're fortunate to have a guest speaker, Scott Norton. Scott is the CEO and co-founder of Sir Kensington. Scott is going to give a 15-minute talk to kick us off tonight entitled Building Condiments with Character and why Unilever bought Sir Kensington. So with that said, let's get on with it. Let me welcome to the digital stage, Scott Norton.
Well, hello. Hi, everyone. And thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the Arcview Network for having me on. I'm excited to share with all of you. So shall I go ahead and share my screen? Lewis, would that work right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Looks like I'm disabled to do that. Is there a way that you can authorize me in? Oh, there
yes,
we go.
That should be. Yep, there you go.
Wonderful. Well, I wish that I could see all of your smiling faces, but I'm hoping that you're out there smiling, and I'm hoping that some of you recognize what Sir Kensington's is and have either seen it or tried it before. This is our lineup this year and what we look like now in 2020. Take you back 10 years ago to right when we started, when we didn't quite look exactly like this. But Sir Kensington's was born with this idea, this recognition that food in America was changing for the better. Every aisle of the supermarket was seeing an evolution, whether that was in grass-fed beef or cage-free eggs, whole grain bread. But when we looked at condiments in particular, and ketchup, it was really more of an industrial product than it was a food product. And it was dominated by this one monopoly, this brand that everybody knows, Heinz. And everyone in the market who was attempting to supplant them and compete with them was basically putting up a proposition that looked exactly like Heinz, tasted exactly like Heinz, but it was just a little bit more affordable, less expensive. And so we said, people need more, and they're demanding more from their food. Condiments are no exception. Go about doing this. Well, we're very much a creative company and storytellers at our core. Mike and I, we said, let's do everything exactly the opposite. That'll be our strategy. Where Heinz is squirting, we will be scooping like a high-end European preserve. Where Heinz was in plastic, our first products were in glass. And where Heinz was Americana and synonymous with the American roadside diner and fast food, we said, what's the opposite of that? Let's make it English. And so we created this character, this story of Sir Kensington, who's a British knight, educated at Oxford and Cambridge, worked on a treatise on Ionian chutneys and sauces for the Queen of England, invented the concept of reinsurance, and it is a whole biography that we created to really create this background of this character and to humanize what we were all about and humanize what people would be looking for in condiments that really fit their own character, which is how we launched. And we started, going door to door with a very simple message, which was, here's a ketchup that everyone loves, made from natural ingredients. It tastes better. It has less sugar. It looks nice on your restaurant table, or it represents choice in a market where there's no choice. And all of these things are very much logical arguments that we were making. And what we found was that 3 years in, we made all these logical arguments. We listened to our advisors, we listened to our investors of what we should put on the label and how we should talk about this logical proposition. But we weren't really breaking through in culture how we wanted to break through. We weren't really taking off as a business and really getting the kind of traction that we needed to sustain ourselves as a fast-growing brand and a sustainable enterprise. And that's when we took a step back and reflected on ourselves and asked this question of, why do we, and what makes us proud? What makes our team proud? And how do we put that into the market? How do we talk from a place of why rather than a place of what? And what we found was that as we talked to our team and we reflected on ourselves and our own story, was that we were doing this not just to prove the world right, and not, frankly, because we love ketchup so much. If anything, we were more mayo people, and we challenged Heinz ketchup. But what we realized is that we were food people, and we were passionate about what we call the superpowers of food. Food is the fundamental human connector, right? It is the thing that gives us the most intimacy with each other, from first dates to Thanksgiving dinners. It's also provides intimacy with nature, right? All food comes from nature, and it's this creative exercise to cook. It's an exercise of generosity to serve it and to host. And these were the things that were the superpowers of food that we weren't tapping into when we were talking about the what, but we had an opportunity to tap into in talking about the why. And so things really started changing for us when, trying to advance my slide here. When we started to put this why into words, and we wrote for ourselves a mission, which is to reimagine ordinary and overlooked food with fearless integrity and charm. This is really what we stood for in terms of what were we there to do and how were we there to move the market, but it was also wrapped up in that it was a product strategy too, because we were finding across condiments and across, in the future, more food categories, what was ordinary and overlooked that needed this integrity and charm to it, that needed to be elevated, that needed to have some of this joie de vivre. That was the idea of reimagining it with this integrity and charm being those humanized values of Sir Kensington himself, of the purity of how we source our ingredients, and the charm because food is there to nourish us, though it's also there to entertain. And we've got to nail both of those in order to create a brand that really breaks through. And so we wrote a purpose as well. And we thought about this purpose as the fact that food is the most powerful human connector. And that in the work we were doing, we were protecting that superpower and defending what we call the dignity of food. There has been so much to challenge the dignity of food, from large-scale agriculture to corporate multinational CPG, and it's fallen from grace in a lot of ways from what it was in the pre-industrial times, and especially how World War II and the second half of the 20th century really corporatized food. This was something that was a message that we were passionate about, and a message that really connected with our customers as well. And so that might be slightly ironic that in 2017 we were actually acquired by Unilever. And knowing that you were all an audience of investors and being asked to speak tonight, I wanted to make sure to talk about the full story and how the acquisition was part of how we saw an opportunity to broaden our platform and to partner with a company, Unilever, that shared our values, that had global reach and global scale, and it's borne out. We've more than tripled, almost quadrupled our sales since the acquisition in 2017. We've grown across retail. We've grown across food service. We've probably grown our e-commerce more than 10x in that period of time, and we've institutionalized in a lot of ways and learned a tremendous amount along the way. And Unilever came knocking at our door, and they were interested in what we were doing. They have $1 billion business with Hellmann's mayonnaise. What do they need Sir Kensington's condiments for? And I think an important message to investors here, to the brands, is really that the future in so many markets is going to come from the ankle biters, from the upstarts that are challengers, to the big iconic brands, and challengers to those which have those really entrenched positions. Cannabis is obviously a very different market landscape and very different market structure in terms of its maturity. But what I want to offer is 3 lessons that I think that was very important for our success, and also attractive when Unilever thought, what capabilities are we buying here? What abilities are we buying here in this team that have really particularly served us? So the first, and I touched on it at the beginning when talking the story about our purpose, was that, and it's probably taken me 10 years to really put this into words, but people don't buy products, they buy stories about themselves. Famously, earlier this year, the CEO of Subaru said that all the research shows that Americans are not interested in purchasing electric cars. They're not interested in electric vehicles. And yet Tesla is the most valuable automaker in the world, with about 3% of the annual production output of Toyota. And of course, the Teslas are selling, right? And what does Tesla stand for? It's, I am ushering in the future. I am someone who is cutting edge, right? I am in a sexy sports car that says something about who I am, and at the same time, technology enabled in a way that is, also politically correct. And I think, a brand like Tesla is a tremendous brand in that. Of course, people talk about, Apple, right? A brand that, in enrolling in Apple and purchasing Apple products, you sign yourself up to say, I am part of the global creative class, right? I have a limitless imagination, and I need tools that enable that. When Nike puts advertisements out, they don't talk about the fact that this shoe is going to make you run faster. Their advertisements don't talk about the amount of padding in their shoes. They talk about equality, and they talk about what it means to be athletic, right? Athleticism on and off the field. Just do it is really about your own relationship with yourself. It's a Taoist statement about shattering your own ego and stepping into your power. And so in building a brand, what you're doing is you're designing a religion. And as a brand builder, and as you look at businesses and you shape businesses, ask yourself the question, What is the seminal text of my religion? Who are the prophets? Who am I anointing to be my clerics and my priests? What are my commandments, my values? What does heaven look like? And what are my sacraments? You know, we understand brands, we understand these cultural institutions in the same way that the human brain understands religion. And in so many ways, as dark as it might be, the corporate world and consumerist culture has replaced religion in a lot of society. Use this for good, not for evil, but make use of it. Second, a little bit less philosophical, is invest close to the register. A lot of people think that brand building is all about advertising and it's all about, brand architecture, really flashy kind of things that break through and make headlines. And of course, PR is important, telling your story is important, and of course, there's a place for paid media. But at the same time, they say vision without execution is hallucination. Most important thing we ever did for our brand is actually hired a field marketing force to do thousands of demos in stores and in Whole Foods. So as you think about investing your marketing budget, not everything has to have a solid ROI attached to it, because you've got to build that story. You've got to build that religion as well. But it's all about, especially at the early stage of a brand, retail execution, on-shelf availability, on-shelf visibility, and packaging and positioning that converts. And third, you've heard it a million times, but it's worth saying it again, that it's all about the people. Your job as an entrepreneur, your job as an investor is to give your resources and surround yourselves by people that are smarter and more capable than you and get out of their way. You are all in the energy business. We are in the energy business, the human energy business of getting talent on the team, making the people feel part of that mission, that authentic mission that in many ways comes from their hearts and their minds, and enabling them to overcome the obstacles, helping break down the obstacles in their way. So with those three messages and making sure that we have time for a couple of questions, I'd love to open it up.
Great. Thank you so much, Scott. That was an excellent presentation. I've seen probably thousands of pitch decks come through Arcview over the years, but the way you just articulate your journey as an entrepreneur, I still learn new things. That's what it's taught me. So thank you so much. So those in the audience just tuning in, if you have questions for Scott, now's a good time to chat them in or use the Q&A feature to do that. We have a time for maybe just one or two questions though, but if you'd like to further the conversation with Scott, happy to do so. But while we're waiting for some questions to roll in, just a question from me, Scott. What's one thing that surprised you in your journey in building Sir Kensington's Ketchup? Was there something that you thought would be a challenge that wasn't, or something that you expected that wouldn't be and it was? Is there a story behind one of those?
Yeah, something I thought that I'd be a challenge and wasn't. I don't think so. I think the lesson is actually the opposite, right? Is that everybody thinks about strategy as a straight line between A to B, and it is anything but, right? Everything is more difficult than you think it's going to be. And that's of course true in the digital world, but we are all in the physical world, right? Moving products, moving plants, processing things, putting things in bottles, getting it on store shelves. Incredible amount of complexity. And I think that really great leadership is being able to weather the ups and downs of that roller coaster, being able to emotionally self-regulate so that you can be a foundation for the people around you, because all the emotional energy cues off of you as a leader. So in those ups and downs, invariably, they say no plan survives first contact with the enemy, or everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, I think Mike Tyson said.
Yep. And
when you get punched in the mouth, how do you recover quickly and set an example for your team around you?
Excellent. No, wise words for sure. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for questions. If you'd like to connect with Scott afterwards, we're happy to make that connection. But over to you, Jeff. Thank you so much, Scott.
Scott, that was awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
My pleasure.
Let
Thank
me
you.
Now just pass the mantle over to my partner, Gene Sullivan, who's going to sort of serve as MC for the rest of the evening. Gene?
Thank you so much, Jeff. Scott, I really appreciate your words of wisdom and cleverness. Look at how parallel that is to all these CBD properties and companies and brands trying to differentiate themselves. But here's the thing I wanted to tell you. Your first slide with all your products, I believe I have every single one of those products in my pantry. So I have loved the brand for as long as you've existed. So I am Jean Sullivan. I am so proud to be part of the Arcview group and also a co-founder of Arcview Ventures and part of the Arcview Collective Fund. It is my great pleasure now to introduce Chris Burgrave. Chris, you are amazing. You are part of AIR, which is one of the most wonderful MSOs with such a great story behind that. And certainly you got to be happy this week for more action in your states where AIR is. You are the chairman of Toast and the principal investor. You're an Arcview Collective Fund member, which is thrilling, and such a great pedigree, being the former global CMO of Anheuser-Busch InBev. So, Chris, I also thank you for finding Scott Norton for us and being part of that story. I welcome you to the stage to tell your story and introduce Toast. Come join us on the digital stage.
Thank you, Jean. It's a pleasure, everybody, to be here. I will share my screen. So if I can get that, then I can put, can I do this?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, there we go. Slideshow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce your Toastmasters tonight. Jean, thank you for the setup. Scott, it was a pleasure to be with you on the Sir Kensington journey as well. Sir Kensington was, I was part of it as an investor, as a board member. And I can testify that all those hard lessons learned. My background, you've already heard it from Jean. I'm 31 years in business, 23 years of those were with fast-moving consumer goods businesses like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, ABI. We have two more people here that you will hear about more. One is Johan Rincon. She's our COO board member. She's 18 years in business, has a phenomenal pedigree as a senior partner with Accenture, comes from Northwestern. And Puneet is our CEO, co-founder. Puneet, I met a former Bridgewater associate as well, 15 years in business. We met one evening 4 years ago after class in Stern, and this is how the story of Toast started. Now, important here, what I want to highlight is I joined the cannabis business 5-6 years ago as a marketer, as a father, as an investor, as a marketer, because I saw wonderful opportunity to help shape this business in a responsible way after being 6-7 years in alcohol business. There's lots of lessons learned in highly regulated businesses. And then before Coca-Colas and P&Gs, those are also much more regulated than people imagine. Yet the CPG fundamentals that are now, our thesis was cannabis and hemp will evolve similarly to these big established markets as well, but with a twist, because of regulation, lots of the lessons that you can apply in CPG, the fundamentals apply, but the tactics may differ substantially because of the regulation. But so as a marketer, I thought, what a wonderful opportunity this is. Second, as a father, my daughter was at that time in her early 20s, in and around Stern, growing up in New York. There was a big discussion and a lot of reverse mentoring was going on around what this business of cannabis was. And then lastly, as an investor, I listed here, and we'll come back to it, 6 reasons why I think an investment in Toast is worth your while. And we'll amplify those in the next 13, 14 minutes and come back to it. Quickly, I think with the elections, you've seen it time and again, this is one of the largest new market opportunities in our lifetime. Second, and this is the focus of this presentation, Toast is one of those breakaway brands that is built on very smart, adapted CPG fundamentals. It has a clear purpose. You heard from Scott how important that why is. Critically, we have a BIPOC-led proven team, also a lot of women in our team, and I'll show you the numbers about it. The reason why we emphasize this, if anything I learned, the social justice is a critical underlying component of the DNA of this category, and we really want to live it. So we always meet investors who say this is important. Well, you see for us in how we are governed and how we're set up, this is important. We're an asset-light, very nimble business model that already has proven to withstand high volatility. We have the battle scars to prove it. There is traction and growth, and we'll come back to it, and recurring revenue and a full sales pipeline that Puneet will show. And last but not least, I'm an investor too. I play in cannabis not only as a board member of AIR, which is a very profitable, successful MSO. I see the whole value chain from cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and branding. I'm an investor in VCs, so I see lots of pitch decks ourselves. We play with the same rules. The offer we make to you today is a good offer on which you can have 10x. I'm the largest investor, individual investor in Toast. I eat, quote unquote, my own dog food. So with that, my last slide I wanted to show you, because it is important, is our statement on diversity and inclusion, and you can see the numbers. We have different ethnicities, male, female. It matters to us in how we are going to market. So if you want to invest in the business with the right setup, we don't do this just because we believe it's right. We also believe this is good business. Time and again, it has been proven that diverse businesses outsmart the less diverse ones. So with that, I would like to welcome Johan and Puneet to the stage. Johan will take you to the next part of Toast. So a toast to celebrating life in full spectrum. Johan, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. And hi, everyone. As Chris said, my name is Johan Rincon. Thank you for having us today. I'll get us started by first introducing the brand. So we are Toast. Toast was inspired by the natural beauty, social spirit, and culture of Aspen. It is a brand centered around enhancing experiences and making celebratory moments powered by the cannabis plant. To toast is to celebrate life in full spectrum. And what that means is they embrace the moment, see and experience the world with all 5 senses, and appreciate the full spectrum of cannabinoids and all its effects from cannabis to hemp. Our consumers celebrate life in so many different ways, big and small. From quiet moments of self-care to celebrating moments of togetherness with a slice after dinner with friends to mark the end of a long day. Toast is the perfect pairing for holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and all those moments in between. And as Scott challenged us to think with Sir K's, why do people buy Toast? When you buy or use Toast, you're telling the world you're a positive person with optimism that sees daily life not as a rote sequence of events and routines, but as a string of moments actually worth celebrating. On our next slide, I'll get into our origin story. So when Toast launched onto the THC market in 2017, we took the classic joint and redesigned it to meet a new demographic emerging onto the cannabis market. It was the highest quality flower, CBD forward, microdosed for individual consumption, and importantly, it was also beautiful. From the flower inside to the final presentation, we elevated every element of the experience. It is our flagship product that put us on the map. It set us apart from competition on the pre-roll shelf and caught the attention of retailers across markets. So from the green solution to Flower One to MedMen and Columbia Care, the slice really started it all. In hemp, we took that same disruptive spirit and brought it to another classic category, which is tinctures. We elevated it by adding a cold pressed orange flavor twist. And we were also one of the first hemp brands to earn USDA organic certification. So we created a flavor and an experience for our consumers that no other brand was doing. We worked with restaurants like By Chloe, which is a vegan fast casual chain, bars like One Oak, spas, and the Ritz-Carlton, amongst other hotels. We integrated the tincture into everything on the menu to show new consumers how to toast in their daily life. The flavor actually became so popular, Lord Jones even recently copied it. And so like the slice, our cold pressed orange tinctures and the lifestyle it inspired, it won us the attention of our biggest distribution partners today, and that includes Green Lane. These 2 products were our launching points into cannabis and hemp, but we've grown from there. We started in flower with the slice on the cannabis market in Aspen in 2017. And actually the slice is also available nationwide in 100% hemp too. We launched our ingestibles in 2018 in New York in collaboration with By Chloe, the vegan fast casual chain. It was a huge hit. There were literally lines around the block in Greenwich Village, and that set the stage and tone for our expansion well beyond New York. And as part of the Toast Inside model, we also created infused chocolates in partnership with a Brooklyn chocolatier called Fine and Raw, which has distribution in Whole Foods and Erewhon and other natural food grocers. Our expansion into beauty, which is that third pillar, next year is our next big product innovation. And so just as we did with flour and oils, we're elevating this category too by creating truly beautiful formulas with our skincare partner. We are excited to collaborate with Georgia Louise, a celebrity esthetician with an A-list clientele that includes Jennifer Aniston, Carly Kloss, Emma Stone, Alexander Wang, and so many others. She has 20+ years of hands-on experience and existing distribution at some of the most prestigious beauty retailers in the world, including Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, and Violet Grey. So these categories alone address about 90% of the total CBD market, and Toast is uniquely positioned in a new and interesting way to stand out amongst the competition. If you go to the next slide, you'll see in the competitive landscape, there are brands that focus on cannabis or hemp only, or promote purely functional benefits as opposed to lifestyle benefits. So that's represented by the X and Y axis in the chart. Toast has carved out a niche in the white space by spanning the full spectrum and positions itself strongly as lifestyle. In order to protect and grow that positioning, we've got some strong moats surrounding us. One, it starts with our brand name, actually Toast, which is uniquely positioned to own the category of celebration and gifting. We built a brand with purpose, and as Scott was saying and reiterated, this is an intangible benefit, but is essential to brand building for acquisition one day. Number two, as mentioned earlier, we innovate on every category we touch. Nothing is a white label formula with our label on it. It's incredibly thoughtfully crafted and thoughtfully marketed to be integrated into our consumers' lifestyles. The third mode is our strategic partners. We've surrounded ourselves with the best partners and inked some exclusive deals. Our partners include Fine and Raw, Georgia Louise for Toast or for beauty, the Green Solution, Columbia Care for cannabis, just to name a few. And fourth is we are obsessed with quality. As an early entrant to the cannabis market, we self-regulated our supply chain to make sure our products were safe. And in hemp, we set the bar on triple testing, organic certifications, and we continue to push our suppliers to higher standards. Toast has established itself as one of these breakaway brands by racking up a list of firsts. And here are some examples of that. Within months of launching at higher standards, we became their top-selling tincture and earned a spot on the Greenlane distribution platform. Just one of 6 brands they onboarded, and displacing Lord Jones and Mary's, stalwarts kind of in that space. The Slice caught the attention of the Green Solution, which was acquired by Columbia Care and is Colorado's largest cannabis company. Alongside Jim Belushi's Blues Brothers brand, they chose Toast to be their first brand partner to launch across all their retail locations and wholesale network. In addition to that, we're the exclusive partners I mentioned to Fine and Raw Chocolates, By Chloe, and most recently, Georgia Louise, who chose us because she so loves the brand. And we've done all this while maintaining high margins and pricing power. So what are our customers saying? And the press? They love our products so far, but a few tidbits here and there. Actors and Grammy Award winners in Hollywood have actually told us that they swear by Toast Emerald to help them focus before a performance. The New York Post published an article about a Toast fan who stocks up on cases of our chocolates as an indulgence during quarantine. I was actually just visiting Silver Peak in Aspen last week, and the bud tender told me that he gets asked about Toast all the time because our slices make the perfect gift. So the stories that our consumers share transcend products and hype. We've connected with them as a brand on an emotional level that keeps them coming back for more.
All right, so thank you, Siobhan. I'd like to walk through the business model to start. And I want to first start with saying that Toast does not touch the plant. We've developed a business model that works well with both cannabis and hemp. It's asset light, and there's a path to profitability. While maintaining this business model, we have a relentless focus on quality control and compliance. So on the left-hand side, when we talk about cannabis, the way that we work is we license our brand and provide our IP to a co-packer that cultivates, manufactures, and distributes our product. Toast provides supply chain support and manages the brand via sales and marketing while earning a licensing fee. In cannabis, we're active in flower and our Toast Slice products, as Siobhan mentioned. And with our model, and very importantly, we're not subject to 280E penalties, which provides us with healthy margins and near-term profitability. On the right, with hemp, we offer the Toast Emerald pre-rolls that we mentioned, as well as the ingestibles and soon-to-come beauty. We own the formulation and product development, but more like traditional CPG, we work with manufacturing partners and co-packers. We're sold nationwide, both online and through a variety of distribution and wholesale partners. And we're able to enjoy really great margins, ranging from 65 to 85%. When we think about our go-to market strategy, we really focus on two groups today, which is cannabis and hemp. And as mentioned, a third group will be launching next year with beauty. We refer to ours, if we were to sum it up in a few words, we would call it land and expand. That is, we take the time to actually land a really strong partner that has brand equity and strong reach in the industry. And then we expand quickly with them across their network. If you're wondering, well, can't anyone do that? The answer is not really. It 100% goes back to what Siobhan was saying, and actually Scott touched on as well. Why does Columbia Care or Green Lane or Georgia Louise select Toast out of the thousands of brands? And it's because we have a brand that has established a purpose, and specifically our flagship products have a really great following, and we've developed a relationship with the consumer. That's the power of the brand. On this slide, you can see some logos of companies that that's illustrative. With many of them we're already in talks with, and some of them in progress. And just to provide a little bit more depth in terms of go-to market, in cannabis, for example, with Columbia Care, we now have access to 15 states and Europe. We have several other MSOs we're in talks with, and specifically with Columbia Care in Colorado, we immediately get access to 21 stores and access to the 100+ stores they have in their wholesale network. So again, that's an example of the land and expand. With hemp, we have e-commerce, which obviously takes time to develop, but it's a really attractive channel because you can enjoy 80% plus margins. While it's not as easy as traditional CPG, as there are restrictions on marketing, with hemp digital commerce, it's much easier than THC. In partnership with the renowned beauty brand Fakai, we actually recently grew our email marketing list by 10x. And then when we think about offline, as Siobhan has already mentioned, we've partnered with a number of distribution and wholesale partners. One that we haven't mentioned yet is Topperson, which is a 25-year-old company in the pain relief space that has 40,000 points of distribution. It took us a year to land the account, but now that we have them, we're now able to, we're their exclusive CBD partner and growing across their network. And then finally, something we're very excited about is beauty, which Siobhan touched on. Georgia Louise, again, is another example of that land and expand strategy, where she has the great celebrity clientele, but she already has distribution. So our plan is to launch on both of our e-commerce sites, as well as pick an anchor brick and mortar, of which she already has distribution at some of the most coveted spots worldwide. And so here, I've touched on some of this already, but it provides you a little bit of a better breakout of our various channels. And you can see accounts that we've already won or are in the process of winning. When we think about today versus 2023, you can see that there's, we plan to maintain our distribution and wholesale focus with growth in e-commerce and the dispensary channel. I will point out that we strongly believe that the e-commerce channel could be a much bigger part of our business. However, we've taken a conservative approach, given that it is a new channel for us. So let's, as we think about the investment case, I'd like to talk about Toast 1.0 to 2.0. So we're a team that's built on CPG fundamentals. We launched in 2017, and we're battle scarred and tested. We've gone through the ups and downs of the industry, and we've survived and thrived despite COVID-19. And we've managed to grow initially from 1.0, which was really a small craft brand in Colorado in cannabis, to now 2.0, which is where we are a full spectrum lifestyle brand available nationwide. Remember that we started with the slice, and for 2 years, that's all we did. We made sure that we perfected not only our business, but our approach to the consumer. And from there, we launched the CBD cold press orange oil, which Siobhan mentioned, that immediately catapulted us to national distribution. Next year, we'll launch the third category in beauty, as we've mentioned, with our partner, Georgia Louise. With Toast 2.0, we've now become more CPG-like, which was essentially what we've always been trying to do. We have access to e-commerce. We're fully leveraging the land and expand strategy as we grow in cannabis with the MSOs and in hemp and beauty with our distribution partners. And with each election cycle, we become closer to cannabis, the end of cannabis prohibition. We believe that this is the right strategy to scale effectively. So let's look at some numbers. So before 2020, the majority of our revenue was from cannabis. And we learned some lessons in 2019 that even by not touching the plant, cannabis can be capital intensive. So in 2020, we focused again on the land and expand strategy, where we worked in securing really great partners. We confirmed product market fit, and we focused on scaling. We established partners which were able to grow our hemp business by 4x this year. And you'll find that despite having a similar top line in 2020, we only have 50% of the cost when compared to last year. As we look forward to 2021 and beyond as an investor, you can expect a 10x return by 2023. That growth is fueled by hemp and cannabis with a focus on profitability and recurring revenue. So when we think about exit, we look at companies that will buy Toast based on brand purpose, pricing power, and strong margins. The multiples in our industry for acquisitions have been extremely inflated through irrational exuberance. However, when you look at what Toast has built and what we plan to continue building, you'll notice that a reasonable acquisition multiple on a 10x growth story is very attractive. So I'll talk a little bit about the round that we're raising. So this is our Series A1 round. We're raising $2 million on a $6 million pre-money valuation. These are senior preferred equity shares with a 1x liquidation preference. And we already have $1.2 million committed, so we're looking to fill the remaining $800,000. The use of funds will be inventory to fund POs, as well as our growth, working capital, and then sales, marketing, and innovation to drive our growth plans for next year.
We're proud of the team we've assembled at Toast. Beyond the three of us who you've already met, we have a rockstar crew of creative minds, PR experts, and just general business operators who manage and grow our company day in and day out. Because of the strength of our brand and our team, we've also attracted great advisors and partners, most recently adding Dia Sims, former president of Combs Enterprises, which is the P. Diddy Enterprises, as an advisor. And Georgia Louise, she's our beauty partner, as we mentioned. She's an esthetician to the stars, a La Mer brand ambassador, amongst many other things. So we'll end this conversation where we started, why you should invest in Toast. The first being, it isn't often a new industry is born. Cannabis and hemp present the largest market opportunity in our lifetime, and the time to invest in it is now. Number two, Toast is built on CPG fundamentals with a clear purpose and global appeal. We are a BIPOC-led, proven team with decades of collective experience, successful exits under our belt, and the resilience and stamina to do the same for Toast.
And we're an asset-light we have an asset-light, nimble business model that's withstood lots of volatility, 2020 being a really great example. We have real traction and growth, real revenue, recurring revenue, and a very strong sales pipeline ahead. And as we've said, we believe we have a very, attractive valuation and terms that looks to produce 10x returns in the next 3 years. So with that, I think we'll take questions, and we'll say a toast to the end of prohibition.
Great. This is Jean Sullivan. I'm back. Thank you, Puneet and Johan. I've been following you since your earliest days, so it's very exciting to see your traction and your expanded line. How fun is this that we can bring to the stage our wonderful friends, longtime Arcview investors, operating executives, Elaine Banquier and Rafael De La Cruz, well known to our Arcview community, serious, longtime cannabis investors extraordinaire. And they're going to pose the investor lens questions along with Jeff Finkel and myself. And then I welcome our audience investors to pose any questions they want. And if we have time, we'll field a few. So welcome to the stage. Elaine, Rafael, take it away.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Jeff. And this is actually quite special for me because I've known Chris even before our mutual adventures in cannabis. And I met Chris and Puneet at the very start of their Toast adventure. And I gotta say, guys, this is pretty amazing. I mean, I really do remember the early days, and the product looks great. And you know, the future looks very, very bright. And now I'm gonna throw you a couple of questions to try to better understand the direction that you guys have, you and your brilliant team actually have gone into. So maybe I'll ask Puneet, because you were the one that talked a little bit about this. Could you explain a little bit more the business model? You know, you mentioned that it's that you don't touch the plant, yet you are in many distribution channels with a pretty wide wide range of products and SKUs. So how do you make whether it's the cannabis product, whether it's a hemp product, and going forward the beauty product? You just tell us a little bit about
Sure.
the model and the supply chain.
Sure. So I'll explain it relatively simply. So we have cannabis and hemp, and for the most part, the models are the same except one key difference. So in cannabis, we license our brand IP, and then we work with co-packers and various partners. So we work with distributors, just like in consumer packaged goods. We work with a distributor, a manufacturer, and a cultivator. It's our formula. They produce the products. We go out and sell it to dispensaries, and they distribute it. It's actually the same exact model in hemp, where we've identified. We go through a very strenuous process identifying our partners and farmers and manufacturers, but we do the same thing in hemp. And so we have a manufacturer for our oils. We've scoured the world. Siobhan can tell you about it, from India to Paris to the US on our beauty side. And we establish the partners, and we work with distributors to sell our product. The only difference between cannabis and hemp, in cannabis, we don't touch the plant, so we make our money through a licensing fee and the selling of packaging. And then in hemp, we actually make the full wholesale or retail value on our website.
And for the beauty products, it'll be the same model as hemp.
Yes.
Correct.
Where you'll be, you basically will have co-packers who will work on your formulation using your products. But then do they sell them or do you sell them?
So on the beauty side of the house, we sell them. And in fact, that is the case for their other products as well. So we work with formulators and co-packers to put the Toast twist on everything we do. and we ensure that they meet our quality standards. But we take ownership on the hemp side of the product, on the hemp side of the house. We take ownership of that product so we can control its sale.
Okay, so how much have you raised to date, and how much cash do you have on hand, and what is your burn rate? I know,
Sure.
I think you're raising, I think you mentioned $2 million, is that
That's
right?
correct.
So how far, I'm just trying to get a sense on how far this raise will take you.
Sure. So, so over the last, I guess, 4 years now, there's been a total of 8 million raised, which has been focused on building the brand and getting us into THC markets and then eventually hemp. As mentioned, kind of when I was going over the revenue, and I think as all cannabis brands learn, as you grow, you learn some lessons, as we did in California in our expansion. And now the 2 million that we're using, or that we're raising right now, comfortably gets us into the end of next year. At which point our projections have us hitting profitability. The idea is that we would, at that time or sometime around then, likely raise a Series B, which would be a pure growth raise.
Got it. Okay. How many, I know you're an asset light company. Probably, I know you guys have cut down your G&A substantially also. How many full-time employees are you?
Sure. We are 7 full-time employees.
Okay. And I noticed that in your projections, you did a great job of reducing the burn. I guess that was, COVID taught everybody a lot of important lessons, and survival was one of them. And so you reduced the burn substantially. However, I see in your projections, which get you to cash flow positive and pretty intensive profitability, you don't really grow that G&A line. How do you plan to do that?
Sure. Yes. We did, just to hit the point you made at the beginning, we did cut our G&A quite a bit. And that was, partially about how we rebalanced our portfolio between hemp and cannabis. But as we looked forward, the growth plan is still to be asset light. And really, if you think about it, the most of our expenses are going to come from marketing, innovation, inventory. The way we look at sales, so like, for example, landing Top % or landing Green Lane, they come with full sales forces. And so our goal is really, we don't believe that we need to increase headcount, since we don't own the supply chain, in order to hit those numbers. So it's really about keeping headcount very tight, as well as effectively leveraging some of our partners' OpEx, essentially.
Yeah. So basically, and this does not surprise me, knowing Chris and knowing you a little bit, that you guys want to keep it really very tight, and you're basically leveraging the brand and letting everybody else do the heavy lifting, and that's fantastic.
Right.
Thank you. Great job.
If I may, I think the word is frugal.
Frugal, very good word.
Frugality is in the DNA. For anybody that has followed AB InBev, is the champion of frugality. That frugality, Scott also at Sir Kensington knows everything about it. We brought that in. And so the question is indeed, how do you stretch $1? This team has that in its DNA, how to stretch $1. And with every choice that we make, frugality doesn't mean cheap. It means really trying to leverage what you can, coming from what we call the hunger model. We are starving artists that constantly see, what can we get for free? What do we have to pay? Where can we get the energy from somebody else? To ensure that from an investment perspective, you stretch the dollar as long as you can. COVID was a good reminder of that, but even before COVID, we learned that brand building in this new category, this is new category building. It's going to take time. Scott gave an example, and you know that better than anybody else. In CPG, established businesses, it's all about differentiation, being different than the guy who's already there. Here, we need to build the category still, and within that building, create differentiation. So it's a long haul, yet at the same time, it goes with fast leaps and bounds. So as we follow the CPG rules, but do it frugally and with new twists that cannabis can actually bring that maybe CPG brands can't, because the plant is versatile. You know, Sir Kensington is a product that can be eaten at particular times. Our product is used 24/7 at various need states. And this is how so again, bottom line, frugal, stretch the dollar as far as we can, keep the burn low. We will invest in field where we need to, in field marketing, close to the points of sale, like
Right.
Sir Kensington did. We will spend time and energy there. We will find action close to the point of sale.
For sure.
So this is a great segue to Raphael's questions, because he's going to be talking more about marketing and branding. And thank you very much, Chris, Puneet, Siobhan, and I'm going to turn it over to Raphael.
Hey guys, great presentation. Can you tell me a little bit more about your go-to-market strategy? I mean, I understand that you're leveraging different influencers, different celebrities. I mean, we have experience building in the beverage business, obviously, new categories. I'm really curious, you're going into a lot of crowded and competitive spaces, and you're raising $2 million, which might seem to be a little low. How do you plan to stand out with your go-to-market strategy?
So I'll start, and then Siobhan, if you want to jump in, feel free to. So I think it, you know, not to hopefully sound like a broken record, but I think a lot of it is, so we've been selected by a lot of partners. So, you know, whether it be Green Lane, one of 6, with Topperson, the only one, with Georgia Luis, who I know knows, you know, companies like Lord Jones really well, selecting Toast. So really it's first, rather than chasing, it's been that we've been selected. And the way that we've been able to be selected by these partners is really having a, you know, it goes back to the brand story, having a unique positioning, and something that others may not. And so I think first it's landing these partners. I think everything else from a brand story perspective, from a packaging perspective, the tricks of merchandising and you know, all of those things are there. But for us, it is a very crowded space. And we've been very fortunate, we believe, in landing the right partners that can actually get us distribution.
Yeah, and on top of the distribution that these partners afford us, there is an amplifying effect with their existing customer base. So as an example, with our beauty partner, if we were launching from zero, that would be a very difficult uphill challenge. And we're still facing that, of course, but it's a different game in that Georgia Luis has an existing influencer network. She has PR pull, existing distribution. Our partner in chocolate had existing distribution, existing brand awareness. All of these things, when we partner with them, it helps us frugally, but strategically go to market a bit more effectively. So just to add to what Puneet was saying.
Can you tell me some of the lessons you've learned marketing-wise in 1.0, things that you've come across or lessons that you've learned that are going to apply to 2.0?
So, Siobhan, why don't you?
Yeah, you know, I think with, there was a lot that came to mind actually. So in processing those, in 1.0, so building brand awareness is a very important exercise. But in cannabis, it's an interesting exercise because you have very narrow points of distribution and information doesn't flow readily from state to state. So we found and learned quite quickly that it becomes far more effective to be closer to that point of sale, as Chris mentioned, by educating bud tenders, having an impressive point of sale display, but mainly getting to those gatekeepers, the bud tenders, can dramatically increase sales, even much more so than billboard campaigns or magazine ads or things that broadcast you nationwide. And that was most certainly one of the big lessons learned. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I would add, you know, I would add that it's also multifaceted and it takes time. You know, there's so many opportunities because everyone's a startup in our industry. So we get solicited for so many marketing opportunities. And you have the ability to blow the entire budget on one event or something like that. So it's really being very ROI and business case focused on every opportunity. What does this do to drive sales? I think in our stage, we focus more on ROI and return of sales, and a little bit on awareness, which we can leverage with PR and digital marketing. But as we get into the next couple years, awareness becomes way more important. But right now, it's really just focusing close to the register, like Scott mentioned and Siobhan did.
Tell me why you guys chose to go
Raphael,
wide.
can I build on that point?
Sure.
I think, again, in my lifetime, I think I've built a number of brands in food and beverage particularly. Toast is not afraid of competition. Actually, it welcomes competition. This is a very crowded market, particularly in the CBD side on a national scale. Tons of products, not a lot of brands. There's no Coca-Cola yet. Nobody has owns the space definitively, unlike others. So if you take what you see happen here is the analogy with craft beer. There's tons of craft beer starting to develop, and we are among the breakaway pack that starts to get equity. There's a few brands nationally. We are in this business. Yes, people know cookies and people know this and that. If you ask 1,000 people on the street, 999 will know Coca-Cola, if not all 1,000 of them. If you would do the same exercise for the cannabis or hemp business, very few brands would be named by anybody. So your point on brand building over time, it's easy to blow a budget. If you would raise 15 million today, we could blow all 14 million out of the 15 tomorrow on advertising without any return. That's the danger, and we've actually seen brands do this. There's plenty of brands in the early days, 3-4 years ago, which we followed, that blew tens of millions of dollars in advertising without return. We don't want to do this. We want to be very closely going with the growth where we are. In the Series B, when we are further ahead and have that footprint with broader distribution, it becomes interesting to get more classic national awareness. As you know from Vitamin Water and others, you don't do everything all the time immediately if you can't translate demand into supply. So we want to calibrate demand and supply as well as we can as we grow.
And I want to add one more thing to that. We hear often that the market is very crowded. I think we've even said it ourselves. And what Chris pointed out, I want to emphasize, is it is crowded with products. But when we go to retailers, we consistently hear the same handful of brands that have actually made a name for themselves, and Toast is one of those. It's just a handful that have pushed through the product noise and started actually creating a brand that people recognize and trust. So while it may seem crowded, it actually is open space for someone to claim that territory.
There's only one that says celebrating life in full spectrum. That will be Condiments with Character for Sir Kensington will become our why. Our purpose is celebrating life in full spectrum. The Toast name itself, you can't compete with. It's a beautiful name. It's like Coca-Cola. It has that positivity embedded in it. I'll rest my case. Keep going.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. So my other question is just going to be really more timely, which is how has your strategy changed now in the time of COVID?
So, I think I'll name a couple things. Obviously we're building out our e-commerce and online strategy or online channel. And that was a focus even before COVID, but it became a bigger focus as COVID happened. At the highest level, not much has changed. At the go-to-market level, focusing online, but also we've been very surprised, especially with Green Lane, which is a brick and mortar business. They have 8,000 to 10,000 doors, which were all shut down in Q2, by the way. But they all came roaring back in Q3, which we were excited to see the reorders come by. So I think it's been we've had to work very closely with our partners like Green Lane to get through this. And so I would say brick and mortar really isn't dead. Just if you look at based on our numbers and growth, it's come roaring back. It might have another dip as we look at Q4 in the winter. but it continues to be strong.
I think a lesson is to stay very close to our core customers, Rafael, because everybody was affected in a big way, and everybody's affected, and there's an organization impact, people impact in every single one of the chain components. And what we've done with Green Lane, with the TGS, is stay very close to them, because people were impacted, individuals left, came, etc. And by staying very, very close and have customer intimacy, if you will, we ensure that as things come back, we're part of the comeback. Because Green Lane itself was a young company. This is a nascent industry in which the distributors themselves, important to us, are also new businesses. Some on the stock market, some not yet on the stock market, but they also are new, and they were also impacted. So recognizing their impact and our impact, by staying close, we are coming back together. Everybody, they need our brands, we need them, and realizing it and playing on this win-win and coming out of it together creates a bond that will have a multiplier effect thereafter.
I would, if I could just add one thing, the people component's important. So I'd say that staying close internally with the team. So I would say we proudly didn't have to lay anyone off. We provided health insurance to all of our people. So I think keeping the team very motivated during this really depressing time in our country was also a really big part. I mean, I think we all became much better family during this time. So that's also helped a lot.
Rafael,
Great. I think I'm going to pass it on to Jean.
thank you. Jeff, go ahead. Do you have one final
No,
question?
I just have one question. Just sort of shifting back to the raise, $2 million raise, 1.2. I imagine it's been a rolling close. So how much of the 1.2 still exists on the balance sheet that's not been sort of used in operation so far?
So our current runway is, we have like a quarter of runway, and then the closing of the round essentially gets us, mainly through 2021.
Okay, that helps. That's a good way of not to say the number, but to answer the question.
By chance, are there one or two great questions from our investor audience?
Yeah, just one or two, mostly just clarifying ones. So Suzette is asking, what products specifically are planned for the beauty line?
So we have, we're not revealing all of our cards in this round, but our beauty partner is known for innovation in the space, but specifically technical innovation. So tools, gadgets that help increase the efficacy of the topicals. So we plan to leverage those platforms to create formulations that pair really well with those and create very cool, beautiful experiences that actually work on the skin. But we plan to launch with I actually don't want to even say, I'm kind of excited about it. So serums, oils, sheet masks, they're kind of all on the horizon as a short list of SKUs we're playing with.
Okay, won't pry any further then. And then we'll wrap up with this last audience question. Alden is asking, which states, could you remind us again, which states are the cannabis products going to?
So cannabis is currently available in Colorado and Nevada. We have been active in California and plan to return next year. And with Columbia Care having access to 15 states, we're currently exploring a few more, such as like Massachusetts and Illinois and Florida as well for next year.
Very good. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, let's go ahead and put up our survey. If you're interested in participating as an investor in Toast, just signal your interest. Now, here's our plan. We're going to create a special meeting by Zoom with anyone who's interested, so you can ask away. And we just would be delighted to have your interest. I'm very excited about these new products, Johan. Bring on those beauty products.
I'm excited too.
We need all the help we can get. And I have bought that Toast Gorgeous product in both Nevada and Colorado. Puneet, since you have launched that product, I love to give it as a gift. It's so beautifully packaged and all, and delicious. All right, so mark here if you're interested. And then just for timing purposes, we're going to run probably another 30-35 minutes. So just if you wanted to plan your life out in today. So So now, you know what's coming up. And as Jeff announced at the top of the meeting, we're happy to create and manage this SPV with a $10,000 investment or more, and we'll aggregate that so that becomes one line on Toast cap table. Just so you know what that's doing, and we're happy to send anyone additional information as well as host this webinar. All right, so now new company to introduce to you, and that's Pantry. Thank you, Siobhan. You're welcome to stay with us if you wish, or whatever works for you. So it is my great pleasure to welcome my friend, Paul Rosen. Paul, you are amazing. You're ultra creative in all your dealings and longtime advisor, business builder. I have followed your amazing many creations and investments and advisory in Canada. Starting there, being one of the business license owners and LPs, and such an interesting business. You founded this Global Go, which is fascinating. We participated with you, and now Pantry. So give us the quick overview on Pantry, and welcome Scott Jennings, the CEO. Take it away.
Wow, thank you for those very kind and generous words, Jeannie. We really appreciate it. Hey, Arcview, it is so great to see you tonight. First of all, to Scott and to the entire Toast team, those are both amazing presentations. Really well done. As Jean said, my name is Paul Rosen, and I am a proud co-founder of Pantry Food Company. Now, I'm not going to put you to sleep with a recitation of my lengthy bio, but I will say I've been a semi-fanatical serial entrepreneur for the last 30 years, and I have been entrepreneuring in cannabis on a full-time basis since all the way back in the year 2012. I've been really fortunate and blessed to play a leadership role in some outstanding cannabis companies, many of which are now well-known brands in the North American industry. From my perch in entrepreneurship, passion is everything. It is the rocket fuel that powers you through all of the grinding that founders must do to create a great, profitable company that has values. I'm proud to say of the many companies I have founded in my career, Pantry is the ultimate passion play for me. Why? Well, Pantry sits at the intersection of some uber trends that are very important to me personally, but more significantly are increasing globally in both adoption and need, namely healthy food, wellness, cannabis, and most importantly, happiness. I helped start this company about 1.5 years ago because as a longtime cannabis consumer, I wanted something that was not readily available in the market. Delicious infused food made with high quality ingredients. From my experience, some of the best companies are birthed by a frustrated founder's unmet need. Consider me that frustrated founder. Pantry's thesis is quite simple. First, food and beverage are going to gain significant market share as a form factor in which to consume cannabis. Take me, for example. I've smoked enough joints basically to circulate across the planet if you laid them edge to edge. But at this point in my life, with a strong commitment towards health and wellness, I don't want to smoke anymore. I'll say that my lungs have done yeoman's work and I want to put them in the Hall of Fame where they belong and start respecting my body. I've always said cannabis is a wellness product, and if it's truly a wellness product, to deliver its sort of mandate, it must also be consumed in a factor consistent with wellness. So I think this idea that food and beverage is going to meaningfully gain in market share as a way to consume cannabis is particularly true for new users. We have a whole flood of new users coming to the cannabis industry as consumers, and many of them are simply not willing to start smoking or vaping if it's not something that they have a history with. That's number one. Two, my feeling is if you wouldn't eat an edible but for the presence of THC, then you should not eat it anyways. Pantry products contain low doses of THC for sure, but what we are offering are delicious, chef-designed bites of happiness made with the highest quality ingredients that I would happily consume even without the introduction of THC. But I'll concede the THC makes it even better. Pantry tastes great, Pantry looks great, and Pantry performs great after you've consumed it. Now, aside from passion, the other essential ingredient to success in company building is focus, focus, focus. Pantry is laser focused on moving the needle in the still nascent edible and food category. We don't have vapes, we don't have flour, we don't have pre-rolls, we don't have topicals. We are laser focused on our category, food and beverage. Well, food for now and beverage to come. And we believe that that category, food and beverage, is going to massively increase in market share as the consumption method. And we believe that we will become a top 5 food and beverage brand in cannabis. What Pantry is building is a brand platform, highlighted, of course, by our delicious products, but augmented with cutting-edge content, merchandise, a booming catering division, and a global network of canna-friendly chefs helping design the next generation of game-changing cannabis-infused products. I am not the chief executive of this company, though. I am a proud cheerleader and mentor to Scott Jennings, who I'm going to turn the stage over to now. Scott is our CEO, and I've worked with him now in 2 companies. And by every measure, he is one of the most outstanding founders I've ever come across. He is tenacious. He is incredibly passionate. He has an incredible work ethic. And you know what? He's a darn nice, likable guy. Scott is paired with some truly extraordinary people. Jordan Scarrett, Rita Boreski, and a few others. We're a small focus team, but Scott really is our leader. I'm going to throw it to Scott, but just before Scott takes the stage, we're going to just show you a brief video so you can get a better sense about the Pantry experience. Thank you.
What Pantry has to offer, because we're a low dose company, and we're just trying to go for that market where people that understand quality and where it comes from, and that more than it's about give me the 50 milligram punch and put me out. It's not about getting high when you're utilizing some of these products like the olive oil, but it's really just introducing some wellness into your routine, and you're getting a buzz, you're not getting drunk.
Okay, I think we're ready for Scott Jennings.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Arcview. I really appreciate everybody being on the call and listening to the Pantry story. This is a picture of our packaging. I wanted to show you this to make sure you know that packaging is a very important part to our company. It's one of the most positive feedbacks that we get. Before diving in, I'd like to give you a little background on myself and how I got here. I've been a consumer since I was 13. That's almost 2 decades of consuming cannabis. Back in the day, you used to just call your dealer or your buddy or whoever and say, hey, I'd like some cannabis. What do you got? Northern Lights, White Widow, a gram, an eighth, or, an ounce if you chose. As cannabis legalization has come online, there's been a plethora of new options and choices. And to Paul and I's, emphasis on wellness, we were excited about. We're investing in the market, and we were going to more dispensaries than we can count. But as we went into dispensaries and we said, we'd love to retire or give our lungs a break and trade up to the better for you category, we looked around and we noticed that infused foods or edibles would be potentially one of the best or safest options to choose. But as we looked at the category, we realized that it was largely dominated by candy. It was following the trajectory of traditional cannabis, of traditional food, with empty calories, harmful ingredients, chemicals, and artificial flavorings. So Paul and I weren't ready to switch to any of the infused food products or edibles. We said it's candy, and we said we don't eat candy today, and we're not going to start eating candy just because it has THC in it. On the investor side, I've been investing for the last 10 years. I spent 8 of those years at Morgan Stanley and Barclays. I'm a high growth investor and invested in the technology space for some time and did very well for myself. Alongside technology, cannabis was chugging along as legalization came on as a high growth industry, not only with high growth, but the potential to do well for society as a whole. And that to me is an impact investment. And that crossed my passion to do well for society, to get a return on my investment, and to also include health and wellness. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the brand platform now. Before I go to the brand platform, let me just take a pause here. On the bottom here, you're seeing what's in my pantry. Scott Norton was great earlier. It was a fantastic introduction. And, you know, coincidentally, I didn't know he was going to be on the call until just, you know, a couple days ago. And I have Sir Kensington in my fridge, right? And how did it get there? And Scott talked about you have to be able to see yourself in the brand. Well, I do. To me, what I put in my body and what I put in my temple is so important. And as I got better educated around what Heinz was doing or what quote unquote healthy cereals were branding healthy, but weren't following through with the ingredients, I started doing more of my homework. And that's how Sir Kensington got in my pantry. That's how RX Bar got there. That's how I shop at Whole Foods and Erewhon. Because as I got older and I aged out of my invincible 20s, I realized that I couldn't put shit in, because if you put shit in, you get shit out. And so I started to trade up. And it wasn't about, you know, there's a funny New York Times article that said, Sir Kensington, the fancy ketchup. To me, it wasn't anything about fancy. It was about quality. It was about taking care of my body. And if I took better care of my body, I can take better care of my family, my community, my company. And so it was a real strong desire to put better ingredients in my body. And that was what I saw in Sir Kensington and these other brands. Going to the Pantry platform, you'll see here that in the center, we're an authority for infused foods. What does that mean? It means when you look to this new nascent space of infused foods, there's a lot of questions. Nobody's an authority today, but Pantry has desired and puts forward that vision that when you look to the space, we want to be the go-to brand for you. And it's been resemblance in out-of-state and international people reaching out to us to say, wow, we love your content. You're educating us about this space. That's really meaningful to us. And around that, you can see it's original content, it's great CPG products, strong emphasis on technology, education, research, and experiences. I'll dive into this a little bit more. At the center, not only do we want to be an authority, you have to have quality products. I've seen time and time again brands build marketing campaigns or go-to-market strategies around poor products. To me, that's the wrong way to start your flywheel. If you start with a poor product, you have to spend more to acquire your customer. You have to spend more on marketing, more on education. And so at the core of what Pantry wants to do and what we are doing is creating delicious, healthy, infused foods with quality ingredients. And we're not stopping, right? We think of ourselves as a very fluid platform. Every day we learn more about cannabinoids, and every day we learn more about whole food ingredients and how they can be nutritional for your body. And the intersection of whole food ingredients and quality powerful cannabinoids is a very interesting intersection that Pantry's pushing forward in. We launched a cooking series. This is an education cooking series. When we launched Pantry, Paul and I are foodies and wellness people, but we're not, you know, we've never made food before, right? So we reached out to chefs and we reached out to nutritionists and food scientists, and we said, what does everybody think about the new wave of infused food? What do you think about using cannabinoids? And the feedback was amazing. Some people just wanted to put, you know, as much THC in a gelatin gummy and say, people are just buying the THC. And there was a whole nother group of people that said, we want to pair this with quality ingredients, right? Plant medicine, combining whole foods with powerful cannabinoids in a microdosed way to give consumers the next generation of CPG products. So this education series is just launched. If you saw it last week, the feedback's been amazing, and we're going to start putting out more content month after month. We also launched our catering experiences. Why did we do this? It's because while we're a digital first company and we value quality ingredients, we knew that we had to get in front of our consumers in real life. And as Paul will attest, and I'll probably tell you in this presentation, you know, most times we don't feel like our demographic is at the dispensary. When we do our catering events, we emphasize that we are here to provide a guided experience to educate you on cannabinoids and on infused food. And our microdose approach allows consumers to leg in while still maintaining control. That's so important. And when we did this for the Kardashians, it was so cool to see Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, Mrs. Jenner, MJ, Mrs. Jenner's mom, 80 years old, enjoying the education, appreciating the education, and sharing with us exactly what we hear from customers. We're looking for a way to take the edge off. We don't want to get stoned. We don't want to get drunk. We are looking for a functional benefit. It's been a crazy year. And to our pleasure, after educating them for 30 to 40 minutes at the event, they indulged in some of our products, and it warmed our heart, the positive feedback. We're very focused on our social media and engagement. We understand that we have to do in real life events. It has to be paired with a very strong digital footprint. I'll go back for a second. I'd like to emphasize that we are female leaning. A lot of the education we get are from females. Females are more conscious about what they put in their bodies than males. And I get a lot of my learnings from the nutritionists, the female nutritionists that are around Pantry, that tell me, hey, this ingredient versus that ingredient, or this ingredient might be better. And it just shows our intention and consideration for the end consumer to try to match and align with them when they say, hey, what do I see in this brand? Well, it's the ingredients that they want to put in their body. When they turn that package around and they say, would I put this in my body? It's not just marketing up here. It's turning it around, looking at the ingredients. And you can see that the acceleration in our social media is by them sharing the Pantry story, saying, hey, you got to check out this brand. They're doing something interesting. I am a very, very big proponent of technology. If you haven't seen the movie Social Dilemma, you should watch it. Now, we all know technology can be used for evil, but it was initially created for good. And if you can harness the benefit of technology, it can be very powerful for you. So we'll probably get into, you know, Pantry's beginning and where Pantry's today, but Pantry is very focused on digital. When we went to the dispensaries, we saw a ton of inefficiencies. And when we look to technology, we see scalable solutions, right? Retargeting consumers, machine learning, data scientists, using Google, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest. Everybody that's watching this today most likely has a phone in their pocket or a phone around them. And to my discovery over this journey, it is very eye-opening, the amount of data that's online. And I'm not here to do bad, but I am here to find my target consumers through the benefit of, through the channel of technology, to help consumers find better products for themselves. Here's a picture of Chef Michael Magliano. He's our lead product developer in-house. He's fantastic. He's a plant-based trained chef. And as I've said before, connecting plant-based culinary with powerful plant-based cannabinoids is one of the intersections we're most passionate about. Here's another table setting. Traction to date. So again, I don't know, we could be running out of time here. I know the call is going over, but again, I think this is really important. When we launched, everybody said, you got to go to the dispensaries, you got to win over the bud tenders, you got to win over the buyers. And so we went to market. I went to market. I went to the stores. I did the educations. I stood on the grounds. I stood back. I watched consumers. And I said, is this the channel that we want to grow through? And I saw so many inefficiencies that I can dive into time and time again, whether it's turnover or misalignment in products, right? Like, think about what a dispensary is. It sells the majority of smokable products. Am I trying to sell a Whole Foods product at a smoke shop? There was a huge disconnect there. So we are very focused on digital first, an e-commerce platform and connecting directly with our consumers. Not only do we want to give them better for you products, we want to give them the convenience that we know that they want. They want to pull it up on their phone. They want to order it in 2 minutes and they'd like it delivered to the door. And we're laser focused on that. And that, my friends, is the scalable solution. Humans are very, very hard to scale. And I've seen it firsthand, and it's not something new. I take it from my investments in technology, platforms, SaaS companies. Managing your costs while maximizing your opportunity is very important. Some of the customer reviews, this warms my heart. Sometimes as an entrepreneur in cannabis, it's like getting hit several times in the face and you just got to keep going forward. And when consumers give us this feedback, it's phenomenal. It warms my heart when they say, this is really well done, best edible I've ever had. Packaging is beautiful and reusable, absolutely delicious. The positive feedback that we get is warming to us, and we're just laser focused on those type of consumers and having them share this experience with their friends as we responsibly grow the company. A little bit about the team. We are a very diverse team and inclusion for all. As I've said, the people that you see here is not the full complete of Pantry, because when you align on a mission, what we've seen is people have come around Pantry and are helping. They're not even paid. They're not part of the team. They just believe in the mission, right? They want to put something better in their body. They know cannabis can help them. They want us to create better products for them. And I call it like a wellness revolution, right? And it's not just in cannabis. We've seen it with Sir Kensington and the trade up for better, high quality food across the board. But a lot of consumers are looking for that cannabinoid within their healthy food products to give them that full benefit of healthy food products with cannabinoids. So we're doing a Series A, use of funds. We're raising $1 million at a $5 million pre-money valuation. We've got 500,000 committed with 500 still open. And with that, I'll turn it over to Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. So interesting. And we saw the cooking show last week. That was fascinating. Well, good for you. Elaine and Raphael, come back to our stage, and over to you, Raphael.
Sure. First of all, Scott and Paul, you guys did a great job at the last Hall of Flowers. I thought the activation you did there was actually pretty good, and love the idea of the product. So I'm going to get a little more detailed. Who do you consider your closest competitors in the market, and how do you differentiate yourselves from them? I know that you guys are really going after kind of that Whole Foods Erewhon customer. So tell me a little bit more about, since I'm one of those guys, let me know a little bit more about how you plan on standing out of the dispensary. How do you call attention to yourselves, and what kind of dispensaries you're targeting?
Sure, I'm glad to take that. So, at first off, how do you look at between two different products, right? It comes down to the branding, comes down to the messaging, comes down to the ingredients, right? And so you have to go out and find your consumer. There's a question around whether or not the healthy consumer, the Erewhon consumer, even knows these options are available at a dispensary, right? So we're very focused on cross-branding with yoga studios, fit cut studios, to be able to cross-brand in and make consumers aware that this option is there. And what they've given us feedback is they don't even necessarily want to go to a dispensary. They said, this is amazing. Can I order it online? And that's when we educate them that, of course, if it's a product with the quality ingredients that aligns with your desires, yes, you can order it very conveniently online.
And can you tell me a little bit more? You talked about how your customer is female leaning. Tell me a little bit more about what research you guys have done into your customer and what you've learned in terms of how to talk to them and how to reach them.
Yeah. So what we've learned when we did a bunch of focus groups, right? We did dinners. Before we did our can of catering, we did internal study groups. And when we had people come around and we said, well, what do you want in a cannabis product? And a lot of them said, look, it's most of the time it's in crappy packaging, right? So if I brought it around my mom or something, she'd say, get that candy out of here. So that was one of our signals to say, we need something that dresses up cannabis so people don't think that every cannabis comes in a dime bag or something like that. It's just a bad impression. From there, we said, well, what else do you want? And they said, well, we love some of these other healthy ingredients, right? And so cacao, or using real fruit instead of a concentrate, no gelatin, right? We love an olive oil because it allows me to make products at home. Because if you talk to a diabetic, they'll say, well, none of the products on the shelf I can have. So if you make me an infused olive oil, I can make my products at home. So listening to the consumer like that. And then how do you reach your consumer? Honestly, I go back to the social dilemma. Internet is creepy, but it's also very helpful. There is more data on consumers on the internet than ever. And being able to use the internet to find your consumers, to engage with them, drive them to your education, educate them, inspire them, move them down a funnel. And hopefully if they're educated and inspired enough, they'll convert. But it's not enough to just do it in digital. We actually love the platform play. So you identify them, you educate them online, but then you bring them together in real life for that community aspect. And going back to food being authentic, we love that. Bringing people together around a table to be educated about infused foods and whole food ingredients that are good for your body. The feedback's been a resounding yes, positive. I'd love to come again. So we love the organic growth. And speaking to Toast before this, and Scott from Sir Kensington, a lot of brands came out here and they blew through their whole marketing budget. And they said, look, I'll just buy a consumer at whatever the cost is. And that's just not what Pantry is about. We're about finding the authentic consumer, finding the one that really wants Pantry, and not just buying them because they won't come back. Finding the shareability where somebody says, this is a great product, I love it, you should try it. And that's how Sir Kensington was introduced to us. It was another health and wellness aficionado saying, Scott, you should try this. And that's how it ended up here.
So I'm a day part guy, meaning I like to know when I have that product at what time during the day, especially coming from beverages. A question for you is, how did you guys decide on the dosaging on some of your products? Because I know some of them are 5 milligram. We always have this discussion between fellow investors. Do you go for a higher milligram, or do you deliver something that, which kind of is more my leaning, imitates the consumption in real life? So for example, you don't eat one gummy bear normally. If you like gummy bears, for example, you eat a handful. If you have chocolate, you eat enough to satiate yourself. How did you guys come up with the kind of dosaging that you came up with?
Sure. So we are massive believers in the feedback loop. We are not egotistical. We are not here to say, Raphael, here's your dose and you should have this. We have been listening to our consumers from day one, from the dispensary floor to online to feedbacks to our dinners. And so what we've heard from consumers is traditional consumers say, look, we'd love a 5-10, that's our dose. And for newer consumers, they say, we love the 2 to 3 to 4, and sometimes 5's too much, right? So we're hearing the differentiation between a traditional consumer and a new consumer. Pantry is focused on the new consumer, but we didn't want to ignore the traditional consumer. So when we initially came out and we had 3 milligrams per piece, we heard an over-resounding kind of cry, hey, this isn't enough, right, from the traditional market. And remember, the traditional market is who's at the dispensary today. So we said, well, what if we give you 5 milligrams per piece? That way, if you want to have 2 or 3 and your dose is 15, you can get there, but you don't have to. If you're a new consumer, we're not alienating you by putting 10 or more per piece. And so we're trying to hit that balance between new consumers and traditional consumers. And we'll continue to listen to consumers to see what their preference is. And we found that 5 with a total of 100 milligrams per unit gives consumers the avenue to go low dose and have 1, or even bite half and have half of 1, or have 2 to 3 and go up to their tolerance level.
And last question.
Sorry,
go ahead, Paul.
I'll just say generally across cannabis, I think we're not doing our customer a favor by telling them that the only way to evaluate a product is by measuring how much THC it has in it and what I would call is the price performance of THC per dollar. So there is sort of the historic culture, for example, in flower is the higher the THC, the higher the price. The truth is, from a cultivation side, they cost the same to grow a 18% strain and a 30% strain, but the 30% strain is going to sell at a 40% premium, something like that. In the edible category, I see this all the time, people looking at packages and zoning in on how much THC does it have, and conflating that with quality. And I would say that's would be like the alcohol industry offering the most premium products by measured by how much alcohol is in the bottle versus all the other ingredients. So dosing's very important. We created something on our website called the Pantry Dosage Calculator to actually first sort of like interactive tool, I think, in the industry to help their consumers properly choose their dosage based upon what they're expecting. And we've all heard those horror stories of people eating a poorly, say, labeled product and having much more THC than they had intended. So what we're trying to move the needle on is saying a little bit is just fine, but don't evaluate the product by saying, hey, Pantry, your THC is expensive. That's not what we're trying to compete on. We're focusing on the other ingredients that pair well with the THC, but trying to get the industry away from the thought that the higher the quantity of THC, the better is the product.
And if I could just add one more thing, Raphael, John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, has a great ratio. Price per nutrition. And if you were to say where Pantry's going, we want to give you the right price for the right nutritional amount, and that's cannabinoids and that's nutritional food. And that's something we're focused on to help consumers find the right macronutrients that they should have in their body per day to live a healthy lifestyle.
Great. With that, I'll pass it on to Alan.
Thank you. So guys, that was great. Great presentation. You have a great team. Paul, I know we didn't go through your whole background, but you know, you are a rock star in this industry and you've been for quite a while, and we thank you for everything that you've done. And you know, you guys are bringing together a company that's food and cannabis. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Because I saw Raphael froze up. You guys are bringing together a business that's like food and cannabis, and you're actually doing something that's very interesting is because you're a food business, right? You're eating this product, you're putting it in your body, you're getting the whole sensory experience, but you're using cannabis as a sensory, as a food ingredient. So my question to you is, and this is interesting because I think earlier Scott talked about people, and in the food industry, you know, you've probably learned chefs and food scientists, they're artists. They're the rock stars of that industry. And so tell me a little bit about your food team, how you develop and how you formulate your products, because, you know, I get it. The catering is well, I don't know. You tell me how you do it. First, the SKUs, the products that you sell, quote, at scale, and then how you do the catering.
So just to clarify the question, it's how do we come up with the products?
Right. Who's on your team? I know you have some chefs, but you know, real quick on that slide, they were advisors. Do you have people on staff that are food, you know, scientists or food formulators? Because chefs usually in the food industry, they're like the creative geniuses, right? But it's not so easy to take that creative genius from a meal for 10 people, 15 people. Then, you know, you go to the restaurant level. And then after that, you go to the industrial level. And that's where you need to be to have a really scalable business, unless you want to have a restaurant.
Fantastic question. And Elaine, if you bear with me for this answer, I'll tell you that there's no one person or one source where we make these decisions. These decisions are made through a very dynamic mix of input, right? And so when I go back to Wall Street, I would read Wall Street information, macro information, and I would look at Main Street and see what Main Street wanted, right? So when we do that, we say, what are the big food trends? Paul will tell you, you know, meal replacement, functional food, one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing categories, right? Then we talk to consumers. What do consumers want, right? Especially cannabis consumers. What do they want today, right? We can't just try to leap over and take them where we want them. We have to meet them where they are. And then we talk to Michael Magliano. He says he's an advisor. He's also an owner in the company. He's a plant-based chef that trained under Thomas Keller, up in Napa. He has a phenomenal background, and most chefs aren't plant-based chefs. And when you learn about plant-based diets, there's a fantastic amount of information there about how people can combat thyroid problems or other illnesses through plant-based diets. In addition, Merida Capital is leading our round. They have their chief scientist is Dr. Deb. Dr. Deb has been helping people through vegan and through plant-based diets deal with their breast cancer, deal with other ailments, right? So we've got her input. Then we go to food chemists, and we go to manufacturers, because to your point, you know, a lot of chefs will say, hey, we can make something fresh, but then when you want to go build it and make it, you know, manufactured and sold nationwide, there's a disconnect there, right? And a lot of manufacturers will say, well, you should trade down to cheaper ingredients or more scalable ingredients. And you have to find that balance. But at the core, Pantry wants to take input from all the amazing people around it, bring that data in, analyze that data, prioritize that data, and make decisions based on that. And that is based off of Ray Dalio's idea meritocracy, where everybody's ideas come in, and then you weigh those ideas around the concept that you're trying to achieve, and you prioritize them, and then you execute.
Okay. So once you've done that whole intellectual brain and sensual dump, do you then develop a line of products from that, or do you go with, you know, kind of like the flavor of the month or the flavor of the season, where you're constantly recreating?
You know, we're very fluid, so we're always recreating. But through all that, right, we noticed you can't ignore the fact that 1 of every 2 edible buyers today is buying a gummy, right? So we said we didn't want to make a gelatin gummy, right? So
Right.
we asked Mags, we asked Chef Mags, we said, well, what can we do better? And not only what can we do better, quality ingredients, can we scale it? Can we produce it? Can we make margin off of it, right? Very important questions. And so we were able to make a French patafouille that's made with real fruit that tastes fantastic. And that was one of the products that we said, you know, Paul and I would say, well, we didn't really grow up to be a gummy manufacturer. That's not really where we wanted to start, but that's where the market is today. With 1 of every 2 edible buyers buying a gummy, we said, let's give them something better designed, better packaged, better quality ingredients, and better tasting, right? So that's how that product came to be. Same kind of concept with the olive oil. You know, we heard from diabetics saying, look, I'd like to make products at home. I can't have anything that's on the shelf. You know, we heard from chefs. They said, look, one of the most versatile products in a kitchen is olive oil, right? So a lot of people will say cannabis chefs are out there infusing on their own, and they're not using lab tested, you know, accurate dosed products, right? So that's how we kind of formulated to come out with the olive oil. And the same thing goes for our other products. We have a list of pipeline of products in the food and beverage space that probably runs 20 to 25 long. And we continue to iterate around those and continue to get feedback around them to prioritize which ones are best to come to market. And so I'll give you another insight. When we did our dinners, everybody was sitting there and they said, man, I need a drink. You know, you're there, you're eating, and they may not want the wine or they may not want alcohol. And so they said, you know, isn't there like a refreshing beverage? And we said, well, geez, you know, there's not many cannabis beverages on the market. They don't want alcohol. So what can we give them, right? And so we started to get feedback and test around a matcha beverage, a powder soluble matcha beverage. So you could take a powder soluble like this, you could throw it in your water. It's very versatile. You could put it in your pocket. You can go around and you can have your beverage on the go if you didn't want water and you didn't want alcohol. And so seeing that feedback from consumers and then crossing that with the data around versatility, around margins, around shelf life, we said, okay, maybe that's a product we want to bring to market. And we've been R&Ding that for some time, and you'll probably see that coming to market in the coming months.
So let me ask you 2 real quick questions, because I know I see that look in Jean's eye. The first question is that, you know, when I looked at your deck, and I know you gave an abbreviated deck, and one of the things that jumped out at me is that you had a gross margin. You were targeting a 30% gross margin. You know, I've spent a lot of time in the food industry, as has Raphael, by the way. And I can tell you that we would not develop or market a product where we didn't have less than a 50% gross margin. And the reason you want to have that gross margin, not because we're greedy and we want a lot of money coming down to the bottom line, but you know, marketing food is expensive. It's competitive. You know, it's building a brand costs money. How are you going to be? How do you think you're going to be able to survive in this world on 30% margins unless you've got some really secret sauce or something that you're doing that's amazing?
So two things. One, where our margins are today are not where they'll be in the future. We are constantly attacking our COGS, and we are constantly reviewing new products to bring in with higher margins like a powder soluble. So we're very aware of where the 30% margin is, and we know that that's not, you know, generally in the category of a sustainable business, right? So we're going to be getting that up through new products and through attacking our COGS. But remember, the flip side of that, Elaine, is we are asset light. And so while a lot of companies came in here and said, hey, we got better margins because we own our own kitchen, they've been spending a lot on their kitchen and they've been suffering on the brand side. And so, you know, the margin's light, but through our asset light, and, you know, the question may come up, how many full-time employees do we have? We have one full-time employee going to 3, right?
So let me
yeah, go ahead.
Just jump in. I'm done after this, Gene. Let me jump in. Something that you talked about. Do you use ghost kitchens for manufacturing? How do you manufacture your products?
Yeah, we co-pack. I didn't want to spend any money on the infrastructure. You know, I want to be asset light. There's new kitchens coming on all the time with better technology, with better automation, and that's the other thing. We want to automate on our customer acquisition, and we want to automate on the production of the product, but we won't put out a crappy product. We won't put out a low quality product.
Great. Scott, thank you very much. Paul, thank you very much. Dr. Deb lives down the street from me in Sarasota. I know her well. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Elaine.
Yes.
Yeah, so just quickly, I just want to make, first of all, a comment about the dosing. First of all, I will tell you this, both Toast for their pre-rolls, their CBD pre-rolls, and their tinctures are 100% my favorite. And Scott and Paul, your jellies are over the top great. So to the point about dosing, it's actually really interesting because my dose limit is about 5 milligrams. And I want to eat that second one. I really badly want to eat it. But in fact, it keeps me hankering for more because I can't eat it. And that actually, in a way, draws me back to it because I'm never fulfilled because it's so good. So anyway, that's my comment. Here's my question. So you launched this year. I think I saw the slide. You did about 150K in revenue. You had 30 dispensaries. Can you speak at all to velocity? Really talk about maybe some of those early ones, what the reorder rates are, what the average orders are, just sort of give us some unit economics and reordering history, just to sort of frame where you are.
Yeah, Jeff, we are greedy long-term, not greedy short-term. And so what we saw when people went after high velocity very fast, they were trying to acquire their customers at a very high cost. That was not sustainable, and we started pulling away from that. So even though we have new dispensaries and new retailers saying, hey, we'd love to bring you on, that's not the sustainable model we want to go. Again, leveraging my back experience in investing, retail has been on the slide for some time. And if you had a front row seat to the inefficiencies of retail in California, you'd probably see how expensive it is to grow it through the retail channel. We cover 50 to 75% of California with 10 accounts. I don't really see the need to grow those accounts.
Just quickly for clarity, because we're running out of time, but what I mean by velocity is sell-through in each store, not necessarily more stores, right?
Yeah. So getting to that, so we're working very deeply with our partners, right? We're having consistent reorders, but we talk to them on a deep manner. We say we're all in the same business, customer acquisition. And when I talk to them like this, their ears perk up. They say, wow, you actually get it. You're not a brand trying to sell in here and just sell to my current customer base. So we've been A/B testing and optimizing, and we are very close to turning on some of the strategies that we've heard, but we haven't been really scaling until you find a sustainable way to do so, which we now have, and we're going to be putting into practice.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Louis, is there a question from the audience?
Just one question here, just about digital fulfillment. So you obviously have an e-commerce site where you list your olive oil, for example. How exactly does the fulfillment and distribution work there?
We want to own our customer. That's another thing. If you sell through these dispensaries, you're not going to own your customer. We want to send traffic to the Pantry site. When you go to Pantry site and you're in California, from San Diego to Los Angeles to San Francisco, you can purchase our products directly on our site, and it's the technology plugin is iHeartJane, and then it's fulfilled by one of our retail delivery partners in those areas. But the big difference there is the customer's coming into Pantry, we are capturing that customer data, and then it's being fulfilled through delivery downstream.
Awesome, thank you so much.
So much. Louis, would you put up our last quick survey? So click here if you're interested in a follow-up with either Toast or Pantry. We wanted to repeat that in case you missed it earlier. And if you click it twice, that's okay too. We'll sort that out. And this survey goes up, so you scroll up, there's a few more questions. We will do what we said. We'll organize another meeting with interested investors with one company at a time, not both. I can see this was a lot to process tonight. Thank you for letting us go over longer than we thought. I really want to thank our audience, our investors, our Arcview members, our guests that are on this. Thank you for joining us. I thought it was really fabulous, and I hope you did too. And also, I'm going to put my email in the chat. So if anyone wants to reach me or any of our team, we'll follow up directly with you. Whatever you need, we'll send you a package if you wish. And thank you all so much for engaging, committing, and building these gorgeous products. Thank you all.